Hi, Lynton here, and this is Sketch and Tell. Spring has sprung. I love this time of the year when the light is stronger, the colours are more vivid, and of course we have the emerging of new life that we see all around us in nature. And flowers are a beautiful part of that. And I'm going to paint very soon one of my favourite spring flowers, although technically it doesn't actually start to bloom until around about October, but it is the beautiful exception. Please let me do this. It's difficult to paint a fragile flower carefully with a lot of detail, but hopefully you can see that it is the water lily, or the lotus as it's called in various places around the world. And when I think about these beautiful flowers, and they come in a range of rainbow colours, from the pink that I've painted through to red, orange, yellow, white and beautiful blue. But first of all, they really are important to where they grow in their environment. They're usually found in shallow, swampy areas. It could be by the edges of a slow-moving stream, but usually in a shallow lake or a smelly, dirty swamp. But they are so important because their lily pads, which I'll paint shortly, sit on the top of the water and provide shade and cool the water temperature down so that algae doesn't grow in those places. They also provide very necessary shelter and protection for the fish from predatory birds. But they are an important spiritual symbol in many of our great faiths around the world, in Buddhism, in Hinduism and Christianity. The lily is a resurrection symbol. It closes at night and opens during the daytime. So you have that death and new life, which is what we think about in spring, the emerging of new life out of that, the death of the cold, long, hard winter. New life emerges. And so the lily every day is a symbol of that life coming out of death. But it's also a symbol of enlightenment. And without getting too complicated about that, that is the emerging of your inner beauty. The real you emerging from within, because the flower, the lotus, grows in the dirty, murky, muddy swamp, and it's out of the darkness of the swamp that this beautiful flower emerges. But I'm going to share some of my own reflections of the water lily, and I'm now going to complete the picture and just share these with you. Trying to create some of that look of the swamp in which the lilies grow. And my reflections come from a time when I was up in the Northern Territory, and I was just sitting on the edge, or was on an escarpment looking out across one of the swamp areas there up in Kakadu National Park. And the whole of the swamp was just covered in these lily pads, and the flowers were just starting to emerge. It was around about this time of the year, and it was just beautiful to look at. And as I looked at these, I started to play around in my imagination, and I thought, now what if I were one of those water lilies, and I spent my time and energy bending over and just looking at the swampy, smelly swamp that I was in, and complained about my place in life. And the reason I was thinking that is because I have to be honest, I do sometimes spend a lot of time and energy complaining about where I am, or thinking about that, and thinking, if only I was elsewhere, if only I could be like that person over there who seems to have much more than I do, or they seem to be in a better place than I am. If only I could just sort of change my place or change this or that in my life, then I would be a happier person. And yet as I looked at those blooming flowers in that swamp, I realised they don't bend over. They emerge up out of that swamp, and they are open for all to see, and they transform with their colours. They change the place that they're in. They don't complain about where they are planted. They're not in some beautiful backyard garden down in Sydney or Melbourne. They are in a swamp, but they draw people, they attract people who come to just look at the beauty in the swamp that they're in. And I was reminded of one of my all-time favourite artists. He was a French artist called Claude Monet, who was so transfixed by the beauty of these lilies that he painted over 250 artworks on water lilies, because he wanted to just look at their beauty and to share that with the world around him. And then as I was thinking about these lilies, it's the fact that they don't spend their time bending over. They are open to the sun. And as I was thinking about this, I thought, yeah, look, I really do want to be someone who makes a difference in the place where I'm planted. I don't want to spend my time thinking I should be elsewhere or wish I was elsewhere. I want to be intentional and make a difference with those whom I'm with right now. I want to use that inner beauty that God has given each one of us. In fact, it's called the fruit of the Spirit: love and joy and peace and compassion. And I add a few more to those: creativity and courage. All of these inner qualities are the inner colours of beauty that each one of us has, and we can display it, we can show it right where we are and make a difference in our little part of the world. I often call those fruits of the Spirit the colours of the Spirit, or the flowering of the Spirit. But I'll be honest, it is hard to do that at times. And as I looked at these water lilies, I thought, I want to learn from them. I want to open myself up, as they do every morning. They open up to their source of life and energy that gives them colour, and that is the sun. And I want to be intentional, and every morning I want to open up my heart and my mind to the source of true life, and for me that is God. But God's life can be tapped into and experienced in many, many different ways. But again, it's being intentional and opening yourself up to it. And that's why I like looking around in the world of nature. I sense God in nature, and I tap into that. You can find that source of life coming to you through life-giving music, poetry, and art. You can tap into that source of life as you pay attention to others who have gone before us, who have really lived out that life. And for me, that is the person of Jesus. You can do this through meditation and prayer. There are many different ways to open yourself up to, from your heart and your mind, to that life. And as you do that, you find that you can then start to share that around where you are and really transform the place you're in and make a difference. As I said right at the beginning, spring has sprung, and I hope that you enjoy the colours of spring around you, but also that you might be thinking about making a difference yourself. Have a colourful day.